After you complete even a tiny action, stop and let yourself feel the moment instead of rushing to the next thing. Name the win. Say it out loud or in your mind. I showed up. I kept my promise. I made progress. Add a small positive cue. This can be a smile, a deep breath, a fist pump, a quick stretch. Anything that signals, good job, keep going. Store the evidence. Write the win in a notes app, check it off a habit tracker, or drop a bead in a jar. Create a visible record of success. Use it to fuel the next step. Let the good feeling carry you forward. Acknowledge the win. Enjoy it for a moment. Then gently move into whatever comes next. Celebration and indulgence may look similar on the surface, but they lead to very different outcomes. Celebration is about recognizing progress in a way that strengthens your discipline. It gives you a small burst of pride, energy, and motivation to keep going. Indulgence, on the other hand, pulls you away from your goals. It often feels good in the moment, but creates regret, slows momentum, or breaks the habits you're trying to build. A celebration is intentional. It is a simple act that says, I did something that mattered. It might be a smile, a deep breath, or a note in your journal. It reinforces the identity you want, someone who shows up, someone who grows, someone who keeps going. Celebration adds fuel to your progress. Indulgence is an escape. It usually comes from wanting relief, comfort, or distraction. Instead of reinforcing your identity, it takes you back to old patterns. It might look like overeating after a workout, overspending after saving money, or binge-watching after completing a task. The problem isn't the activity itself. It's that it disconnects you from your intention. When you celebrate, you build momentum. When you indulge, you lose it. Learning the difference helps you reward yourself in a way that strengthens the habits you're trying to grow, instead of undoing them. Teams use celebration to build culture by creating shared moments of pride, connection, and recognition. When a team celebrates even small wins together, it sends a message that progress matters and everyone's effort counts. These moments strengthen trust because people feel seen and valued. A simple shout-out in a meeting, a quick group cheer after solving a problem, or a message of gratitude in a team chat can lift the whole group's energy. Celebration also helps shape the team's identity. It reinforces the idea that they are not just a group of individuals, but a unit working towards something meaningful. When wins are noticed, big or small, people become more engaged. They communicate better, support one another, and stay motivated during difficult tasks. Over time, these small celebrations create a culture where effort is appreciated, improvement is recognized, and success feels shared. This culture makes the team stronger, more resilient, and more connected, turning everyday work into something people genuinely want to contribute to. Celebration connects to identity and motivation because it reinforces the story you tell yourself about who you are becoming. When you celebrate a small win, you aren't just noticing progress, you are confirming an identity. If you celebrate writing for 2 minutes, you strengthen the belief, I am a writer. If you celebrate choosing a healthy snack, you reinforce, I'm someone who takes care of my body. Each small acknowledgement shapes how you see yourself. An identity is the root of long-term behavior. Nairan. Celebration also fuels motivation by giving your brain a burst of positive emotion. This emotional reward makes the action more appealing the next time you face it. The brain remembers what feels good, so when you celebrate, Even in a tiny way, you make the behavior easier to repeat. Over time, these repeated positive cycles turn effort into enjoyment and discipline into something that feels natural. When identity and motivation work together through celebration, habits grow stronger. You don't push yourself out of force. You move forward because the behavior feels aligned with the person you believe you're becoming. Chapter 15. Your lifetime system. A lifelong improvement system is built on small actions that repeat over time, not on dramatic bursts of effort. It looks simple on the surface, but it quietly shapes every part of your life. Instead of relying on motivation, it relies on structure. Instead of chasing perfection, it focuses on consistency. The system works because it adapts as you grow, allowing you to keep improving without burning out or feeling overwhelmed. At its core, a lifelong improvement system is made of habits, routines, and tiny upgrades. You start with micro wins, small, easy actions that you can repeat even on your hardest days. These actions form the foundation. Over time, they grow into patterns that support your goals. You don't need to overhaul your life all at once. You just build one reliable step at a time. Each step becomes a stable piece of your personal framework. A true lifelong system is flexible. It changes when life changes. When you're busy, it shrinks to the essentials. When you have more space, it expands. It never forces you into rigid behavior. It guides you gently while allowing room to breathe. This flexibility keeps you moving forward instead of quitting when challenges appear. It also includes regular reflection. You pause to look at what's working, what's not, and what needs adjusting. This prevents stagnation and keeps you aligned with your values. Reflection helps you understand your identity, your direction, and your next step. Finally, a lifelong improvement system focuses on long-term identity, not temporary results. You become someone who grows a little every day, someone who learns, adapts, and keeps building. Someone who doesn't depend on willpower because the system carries you forward. In the end, a lifelong improvement system is not about being perfect. It's about being steadily, quietly, consistently better. Every day, in small ways, for the rest of your life. Systems matter more than goals because goals give you direction. But systems create the daily actions that actually move you forward. A goal is a destination, but without a reliable system, you have no path to reach it. Many people set goals with excitement, only to lose momentum because they don't have a structure that supports consistent progress. A system removes the pressure of trying to leap towards success and replaces it with steady habits that carry you there, step by step. A goal is something you achieve in the future, but a system is something you do right now. Systems shift your focus from one day to today, which makes success feel more manageable. When you rely only on goals, you often feel like you're failing until you reach the finish line. But with a system, every small action becomes a win. Every repetition becomes proof that you are improving. This builds confidence and keeps you moving, even when motivation drops. Systems also protect you from the emotional highs and lows that come with chasing goals. Instead of constantly judging yourself by whether you've achieved something yet, you anchor your progress in the actions you control. You can't guarantee results, but you can guarantee effort. And effort, repeated over time, produces results far more reliably than motivation or wishful thinking. Finally, systems last longer than goals. You might reach a goal once, but a good system will continue to improve your life long after that moment. A system turns success into something repeatable. It supports growth in every season, adapts when life changes, and gives you a clear path forward no matter what challenges appear. In the end, goals point you in the right direction, but systems are what get you there and keep you growing. Here is a simple, lifelong system readers can adopt, one that is easy to follow, flexible, and built on tiny daily actions instead of pressure or perfection. The 1-1-1 system. This system is designed to help anyone grow a little every day without feeling overwhelmed. It focuses on 3 small actions that can fit into even the busiest schedule. You do not need motivation to follow it, and you don't need special tools. You only need a few minutes and a willingness to show up. 1. One micro win. Start each day with a tiny action that moves you in the direction of the person you want to become. This win should take less than 2 minutes. It could be making your bed, drinking a glass of water, reading 1 sentence, writing 1 line, or stretching for a few seconds. The purpose is simple. Begin your day with a success you can control. 2. One small improvement. Later in the day, choose one thing to improve by just a tiny amount. This could be organizing 1 corner of your desk, deleting 1 unnecessary file from your phone, doing 1 extra push-up, or learning 1 new fact. The improvement doesn't need to be impressive, it just needs to exist. Over time, these tiny upgrades compound into meaningful growth. 3. One moment of reflection. End your day with a quick check-in. Ask yourself, what worked today? What didn't? What's one small thing I can do tomorrow? This reflection anchors your learning and keeps your system aligned with your values. It also prevents stagnation by helping you adjust as life changes. What makes the 1-1-1 system lifelong is its simplicity. It survives busy days, stressful seasons, and unpredictable schedules. You can shrink it, stretch it, or reshape it, but the core remains the same. 1 tiny win, 1 small improvement, 1 moment of reflection. Day by day, these actions become a quiet force that guides your growth, strengthens your identity, and keeps you improving for life. Maintaining growth during different life seasons means learning how to adapt instead of expecting life to stay the same. Every season brings its own challenges and opportunities. Some seasons feel full of energy and excitement, where improvement comes easily. Others feel heavy, chaotic, or slow, and progress seems harder to make. Growth isn't about pushing at full speed all the time. It's about adjusting your approach so you can keep moving, even when life changes around you. In busy seasons, growth often comes from shrinking your habits to their smallest, most manageable form. You may not have hours to spend on your goals, but you can still do a 2-minute action. You can still take 1 tiny step. These micro wins keep your identity alive and prevent you from drifting backward. They remind you that you are still the kind of person who shows up, even when life is demanding. In calm seasons, growth expands. You have more space, more focus, and more energy, so you can stretch yourself. You can add more reps, read more pages, or build bigger projects. This is when deep work and bigger improvements thrive. These seasons help you accelerate and make leaps that carry you forward. In hard seasons, grief, stress, illness, or major change, growth becomes gentle. Instead of pushing, you protect your foundation. You practice self-care. You keep 1 or 2 tiny habits alive, and you reduce pressure. Growth here is not about doing more. It's about not giving up on yourself. Even the smallest effort becomes a sign of strength. The key to maintaining growth across every season is flexibility. A rigid system breaks when life shifts, but a flexible system bends and adapts. When you let your habits expand or shrink depending on your capacity, you stay consistent without burning out. You honor your limits, but you also honor your potential. When you learn to grow through every season, not just the easy ones, you create a life where progress never stops. You keep moving, keep learning, and keep becoming the person you're meant to be, one season at a time. Adapting your systems as your identity evolves is one of the most important parts of lifelong growth. As you change, your habits must change with you. A system that once supported you can eventually become too small, too rigid, or simply no longer aligned with the person you are becoming. When your identity grows, but your system stays the same, you feel stuck, not because you're failing, but because you've outgrown an old version of yourself. To adapt your systems, you first need to notice the shifts happening inside you. Maybe you feel drawn to new interests, new values, or new goals. Maybe you no longer feel motivated by what excited you in the past. These are signs that your identity is evolving. Instead of forcing yourself to stay the same, allow these changes to guide your next steps. Growth becomes easier when your system matches who you are now, not who you used to be. When your identity shifts, start by making small adjustments. If you now see yourself as a healthier person, update your routines to reflect this. You might prepare simple meals, walk more, or sleep earlier. If you've grown into a more focused person, reduce distractions in your environment, set clearer boundaries, or create a workspace that supports deep thinking. Let your system reflect your new story. Another part of adapting your system is letting go of habits that no longer fit. You don't need to keep every behavior just because it once helped you. Some habits serve a purpose for a season and then become unnecessary. Releasing them creates space for new patterns that match your current identity. This isn't quitting, it's upgrading. As your identity evolves, your system should also become more refined. You might automate certain habits, simplify your routines, or create new rituals that push you gently toward your future self. The more aligned your system becomes, the less effort you need to stay consistent. Instead of fighting resistance, you move with the current of who you are. In the end, adapting your systems is a sign of maturity. It shows that you're listening to yourself, honoring your growth, and designing your life with deep intention. When your identity and your systems grow together, progress feels natural, and you become the person you're meant to be, one thoughtful adjustment at a time. For more than 40 years, Daniel Cole lived by a simple rule. Do one small thing today that makes tomorrow easier. It wasn't flashy, and it never impressed anyone at first glance. But over the decades, these micro wins quietly shaped the entire direction of his life. Daniel started using micro wins in his early 20s, long before he understood the science behind them. He was working a low-paying job, unsure of his path, and constantly overwhelmed. One day, after feeling stuck for months, he told himself he would just do one tiny helpful thing each morning, something so small he couldn't avoid it. The first day, he organized a single paper on his desk. The next, he read one paragraph of a book. Another day, he walked for just 2 minutes outside. These actions didn't seem meaningful, but they made him feel in control for the first time in years. As the years passed, Daniel kept building on this pattern. Every stage of his life was supported by these tiny wins. When he struggled financially, he saved a single dollar at a time. When he wanted to learn a new skill, he practiced for 1 minute each day until it grew into a habit. When he became a father, he committed to one small moment of the connection with his children daily. Listening to a story, sharing a laugh, or writing a short note for their lunchboxes. These tiny acts built deep relationships that lasted a lifetime. As he grew older, he realized something profound. Micro wins weren't just helping him achieve goals, they were shaping his identity. He began to see himself as capable, organized, healthy, and resilient. He wasn't perfect, and he never tried to be. But no matter how hard life became, he always had one small action he could take. That gave him an unshakable sense of confidence. By the time Daniel reached his 60s, people often looked at his life with admiration. He was financially stable, emotionally grounded, and surrounded by strong relationships. Many assumed he had followed some grand plan, but he always smiled and said, "It was never a plan, just small steps, taken again and again." In the quiet of his later years, Daniel kept the practice alive. He did light stretches each morning, wrote a few lines in a journal, and made one small gesture of kindness every day. These micro wins still filled his life with meaning, reminding him that growth never stops, and that small actions still have the power to change everything. Daniel's story shows that micro wins aren't just a short-term strategy. They can become a lifelong companion. Decade after decade, tiny steps can build a life filled with purpose, strength, and steady transformation. Each year deserves a moment of honest reflection, a quiet pause to understand how you've grown, what you've learned, and who you are becoming. A yearly reflection ritual gives you a clear view of the past 12 months and a gentle direction for the next 12. It isn't about judging yourself. It's about noticing your journey with clarity and compassion. Yearly reflection ritual. 1. Find a quiet space. Choose a calm place where you can think without rushing. This ritual works best when you slow down and allow yourself to breathe. 2. Review the year in 3 parts. Look back month by month or season by season. Choose the approach that feels natural. Part A, what went well. Write down the habits you kept alive, the small wins you collected, the challenges you overcame, and the moments that made you proud. Part B, what was difficult. Notice the areas where you struggled, lost momentum, or felt stuck. Be gentle. This part isn't for criticism. It's for understanding. Part C, what you learned. Write the lessons that emerged from both your wins and your challenges. These lessons form the foundation of your growth. 3. Identify identity shifts. Ask yourself, who did I become this year? Maybe you grew more patient, more disciplined, more creative, more aware. Write down the qualities that strengthened within you. 4. Choose 3 micro-priorities for the next year. These are not giant resolutions. They are simple themes that reflect the direction you want to move. For example, take better care of my body. Create something every week. Strengthen my relationships. Each theme can be supported by tiny, daily actions. 5. Select one habit to carry forward. Pick one small habit that you want to protect above all others. This habit becomes your anchor for the year ahead. 6. Write a letter to your future self. Speak kindly. Tell yourself what you hope to continue, what you hope to release, and what you hope to discover. Seal the letter or save it digitally to be opened next year. 7. End with gratitude. List 5 things, people, moments, habits, or experiences that made the year meaningful. Gratitude turns reflection into strength. A yearly reflection ritual helps you step into the next year with clarity instead of pressure, intention instead of confusion, and confidence instead of uncertainty. It is a simple way to honor your growth and prepare your mind for the person you are becoming. Long-term systems prevent burnout because they distribute effort intelligently, create predictability, and remove the emotional spikes that come from relying on motivation alone. When you operate from a sustainable system rather than short bursts of intensity, your brain, body, and identity all settle into a rhythm that supports consistency instead of exhaustion. A system gives your mind something reliable to follow. When you always have to decide what to do, your mental energy drains quickly. Decision fatigue builds stress, and stress accelerates burnout. But when the system handles the what, when, and how, your mind stays lighter. You spend less time wrestling with choices and more time simply showing up. Long-term systems also normalize rest. A well-designed system includes recovery as a built-in component, not a reward for collapsing at the end of a sprint. Rest becomes a non-negotiable part of progress, just like brushing your teeth is part of hygiene. When rest is integrated, your performance isn't a constant fight against fatigue. It becomes a smooth, sustainable cycle. Another way systems prevent burnout is by keeping goals small enough to maintain momentum. Burnout often comes from trying to leap too far, too fast. Systems break progress into micro steps, so you're never overwhelmed. You accumulate wins at a manageable pace, which keeps motivation alive without draining your energy. Systems also protect you from identity-based burnout, the kind that comes from tying your worth to outcomes. Systems shift your focus from, did I achieve X yet? To, did I follow my process today? This reduces pressure and creates emotional distance between your self-esteem and your results. You feel successful because you honored your system, not because you reached a monumental milestone. Finally, the long-term systems make your life more adaptable. When life gets chaotic, a well-structured system flexes without breaking. Instead of quitting entirely, you adjust the dial. Maybe your habit shrinks, but it never disappears. This flexibility reduces the guilt and discouragement that normally led people to burn out and give up. Burnout thrives in chaos, pressure, and inconsistency. Long-term systems replace all three with stability, clarity, and sustainable pace. allowing you to grow for years without losing yourself in the process. Legacy and long-term identity are built not from dramatic moments, but from the quiet patterns you choose to repeat. While goals mark milestones, identity defines the path you walk between them. And legacy is the trail those steps leave behind. When you think about the person you want to become over decades, you begin to shift from short-term achievement to long-term character. Legacy begins with the small, consistent actions that reflect your deepest values. It's not just what you do once, but what you do reliably, especially when no one is watching. These behaviors accumulate into a kind of personal fingerprint on the world. Long-term identity grows out of these patterns. The parent who always listens, the athlete who always shows up, the creator who always returns to the page. Over time, these choices become who you are. One of the most powerful aspects of long-term identity is its ability to anchor you during uncertain seasons. When life changes, jobs shift, relationships evolve, health fluctuates, identity gives you stability. You're not defined by circumstances, but by the way you constantly respond to them. This steadiness becomes a core part of your legacy, the reliability, resilience, or compassion people remember. Legacy is also shaped by alignment. When your actions match the identity you aspire to, your life forms a coherent story. People who struggle with long-term fulfillment often live with a gap between what they value and what they practice. But when your systems support your identity, that gap closes. The result is a sense of meaning that grows stronger with every year. Long-term identity isn't static. It evolves with you. As you accumulate experiences, you learn what truly matters. Maybe you begin your journey seeking achievement, but decades later, contribution becomes more important. The systems you build can adjust to these shifts, allowing your legacy to mature rather than freeze. Identity grows richer when it's rooted in consistency but flexible enough to adapt. Ultimately, legacy is the echo of your identity. What your repeated choices teach others, inspire in them, or make possible for them. It's the long shadow cast by the person you commit to becoming. And the most powerful part? You shape it a little more every day through the small behaviors that slowly, steadily define who you are becoming. Micro wins form a lifelong upward trajectory by turning progress into something sustainable, repeatable, and emotionally rewarding. Instead of relying on rare bursts of motivation, micro wins create a steady rhythm of achievement that keeps you moving forward. Even when life is chaotic or energy is low, each small success reinforces your identity, strengthens your systems, and makes the next step easier to take. These tiny wins compound over time. A 2-minute habit becomes a 10-minute routine. A 10-minute routine becomes a daily ritual, and that ritual becomes a cornerstone of your lifestyle. What begins as a tiny spark grows into a self-sustaining fire. Because micro wins are easy to repeat, they generate consistency. And consistency is what compounds into mastery, health, confidence, and long-term capability. One of the deepest benefits of micro wins is that they create a psychological snowball. Every time you complete a tiny action, sending one message, reading one paragraph, doing one stretch, you release a small burst of reward in your brain. That reward makes you more likely to come back tomorrow. Over the years, this reinforcement becomes a powerful internal engine. Instead of battling resistance each day, you work with your brain's natural desire for completion and reward. Micro wins also build resilience. When life gets difficult, Major goals often collapse under pressure, but micro wins survive tough days. Even during illness, stress, burnout, or setbacks, you can still maintain one tiny habit. This prevents the reset to zero spiral that destroys progress for many people. In this way, micro wins act as an anchor, keeping your trajectory pointed upward even when your speed temporarily slows. Over decades, micro wins create identity-based growth. You start to see yourself as someone who improves, someone who returns, someone who doesn't quit. This identity becomes the foundation for bigger achievements. You trust yourself more. You take on challenges with less fear. You view obstacles not as failures, but as temporary pauses in a long-term upward climb. And perhaps the most remarkable part, the upward trajectory never stops. Micro wins grow with you. As your skills, confidence, and capacity increase, the small wins you take on naturally scale up. What felt ambitious 5 years ago becomes your warm-up today. Your baseline rises, your mastery expands, and your life becomes shaped by the quiet power of consistent progress. This is how micro wins, tiny, almost invisible at first, add up to a lifetime of upward movement. Not through dramatic leaps, but through steady steps that never stop. 2.